If you don't mind my asking, senor, what's inside?
Seedlings of a prototype flower we've been working on at the Navarro Labs. They've come all the way from our Mumbai branch.
Dios mío, from the other side of the world. All that effort for a few seedlings. Why?
These seedlings have the capacity for unparalleled healing. If we succeed, they could revolutionize healthcare.
So, the flower's potential isn't certain?
Not at present, but we're nearing a breakthrough. After years of genetic modification, we're at a decisive juncture. All that's left is to grow the flower to fully test its attributes.
How will this flower change medicine?
It has been engineered to carry a plethora of different healing properties. This is the first step toward a greater and more ambitious goal. Eventually, this flower may lead to the extinction of all diseases. In the lab, we call this flower Miraculus.
Miraculous? Is that related to the Plinius project?
Miraculous is the result of the Plinius project. Joaquin, how do you know about that project? Have we spoken about it before?
Actually, senor, I overheard you talking with a scientist during my flora consultancy at your lab in Venezuela. I didn't mean to pry.
Don't worry about it, Q. Curiosity is natural. Now, would you mind sharing what you heard?
Only something about the Miraculous and gene extraction from Andean nightshade?
Ah, yes. Nightshade played a vital role in Project Plinius. Even on its own, its anti-inflammatory properties could be a lifesaver. Now just imagine its incredible potential when combined with other healing properties.
Project Plinius really does sound special.
It is. I just wish I could have shared more about it with you before. But it was crucial to maintain secrecy during the early stages of the project to avoid any leaks to our competitors. However, those days are behind us, so please feel free to ask me any questions you have right now.
Could you tell me why the project was named Plinius?
Have you ever heard of Pliny the Elder? His Latin name was Plinius. He was a natural philosopher during the days of the Roman Empire.
A student of nature.
Exactly. The same as you, Q. Plinius wrote the Historia Naturalis, arguably the first global catalog of medicinal plants in science. He was truly ahead of his time.
To be honest, senor, Plinius sounds a lot more like you than me.
It appears we both have something in common with Plinius. Wouldn't you agree? In recognition of Plinius's timeless influence on humanity, I named my work after him with the goal of saving lives, not using thousands of medical plants, but with just a single one. A flower possessing the combined healing properties of numerous others.
What's the origin of the project?
That goes back to my days at the University of Valparaiso. In my youth, I was bursting with ideas about how to improve the world. One of them was to create a flower that possessed countless healing properties. Back then, my peers deemed it impossible, branding me a dreamer. Yet their skepticism only fueled my resolve to prove them wrong.
And did you, senor?
Not at that time, regrettably. The university turned down my funding request, killing my project before it even began. It wasn't until my company began to prosper that I was able to resurrect the research project. My global business travels afforded me the opportunity to study medicinal flowers all over the world.
Inspecting plants from all corners of the world. I'm a bit jealous, senor.
Oh, you would have enjoyed it, Q. The multitude of flowers and their properties was quite a sight. However, That took a back seat until my company found its financial footing. It's been just a decade since I was able to allocate several labs specifically for Project Plinius. And in 10 years of diligent work, we've engineered a flower that possesses multiple combined healing properties.
Can you share the secret behind cultivating such a remarkable flower?
The secret is gene modification. We began with 2 medicinal flowers, designating one as the DNA donor and the other as the host. We then used bacteria that are naturally capable of transferring the donor's DNA to the host they infect. And with each successful crossbreed, we ascended closer to the apex, the ultimate medicinal flower, the Miraculus.
Senor, if the Miraculous blooms, what do you intend to do with it?
Once we've procured the medicine, it will need to be tested and approved by the government. Then we'll distribute it to people in need all around the world.
If only Camilla had had access to the Miraculous back then.
You seem upset, Q. Is everything all right?
Forgive me, I just remembered a friend. Someone the Miraculous flower could have saved.
Were they close to your heart?
Si, someone very dear. It's been a while since I've delved into those bittersweet memories. Life in Venezuela was certainly not a walk in the park, but it had its moments of joy.
If you feel like sharing, I'd love to hear more about it.
Sure, senor. We do have some time to kill after all. My roots trace back to a small village, a place of unmatched beauty. That's where I spent most of my early life.
Oh, I'd assumed you'd always lived in the city where we met. What made you leave your village?
Nature, as beautiful as it is, can also be unrelentingly brutal. A hurricane swept through and laid waste to our entire village. We were left with no choice but to gather what remained of our belongings and leave. I was just 8 when we started the new life in the city.
Such a big change at a young age. Adjusting to city life must have been tough.
The city was a stark contrast to our village, senor. We had no land for growing food, and not enough money to buy it either. Not to mention all the people and buildings, it was suffocating.
Sounds like a real culture shock.
It was quite an adjustment for me, but my parents managed better. My mother started a flower shop in our modest home, and my father found employment as an expert on flora. As soon as I was of age, I followed in my father's footsteps. I never went to university, senor. Everything I know comes from my father.
And yet your knowledge surpasses that of most people who have a formal education. Your father must have been an extraordinary mentor.
He didn't talk much, but when he did, every word carried a wealth of wisdom.
Wisdom lies not in the number of words spoken, but in their weight. It seems that your father understood that well.
I'm not sure why, but his philosophy struck a chord with me. He's the reason I became an expert on flora, too. He taught me how to find peace in the wilderness and to listen to the gentle rustle of leaves and the babble of streams. He ingrained in me an understanding of nature's language. He taught me to respect it and live in harmony with it.
Learning to commune with nature is a rare gift. I can see his influence in your work.
I'm glad. He's the reason I became an expert on flora. I don't just plant trees and flowers. I try to recreate the harmony that my father taught me to respect.
And how are your parents doing now, by the way?
The generous pay you offer me greatly contributes to their well-being.
I'm glad they're doing fine, Q. But your pay isn't me being generous. It's a recognition of your worth.
That's kind of you to say, senor. Still, I never fully understood why you chose me for the position at... The position of an expert on flora at your lab in Venezuela.
During our search for the Andean nightshade, both you and your father offered invaluable local insights. It was evident we needed someone with your expertise on the project. I've always been glad you accepted the offer, but honestly, I never understood why your father didn't.
My father is a hard man to win over, senor. Trust doesn't come easily to him. When he saw you negotiating with the guerrilla army during our expedition, any trust he had in you disappeared.
Sadly, the only way to cross the mountains and reach the Nightshade was through their territory. I had to put the success and security of our expedition first.
I understood that. My father, however, didn't.
I take it he didn't condone your decision to work with me either.
Not at first, but he came to terms with it after seeing the joy it brought me.
I'm delighted to hear that. Truly, your work radiates love and passion, Q. If you give even a fraction of the care you've shown to other plants to the Miraculus, I'm convinced it will flower.
Thank you, senor. The job here, of course.
The island needed someone with a deep love of nature to look after it. During your time at Navarro Labs, I saw that affection for nature, combined with a deep understanding and attentiveness. I'm not sure if the folks at Navarro Labs ever told you how valuable your help truly was.
I wasn't aware that my work had had such an impact.
Of course it did, because passionate people like you can transform the world around them. And I strive to keep such people close. Joaquin Diaz, your astonishing professional competence and personal qualities are why you're here. Don't ever forget that.
Thank you, senor.
I also have no doubt you'll do your best to tend to the Miraculous.
I'll give it my all. I only hope that if the Miraculous flowers, its medicine will reach everyone who needs it. Honestly, senor, I'll be okay. We need to head back to the seedlings.
What we need is to confirm you have no fractures, Q. Once this storm subsides, Dr. Gonzalez will be flown in.
There's really no need for her to make the trip. I'm fine.
Q, your injury might be severe. You need to rest.
I'll rest after we've ensured the safety of the seedlings, senor.
Joaquin, the chances of them surviving such a storm are extremely slim. It's unfortunate, but no one could have predicted this.
We can't abandon them. They are still alive, senor.
Regardless, you're in no state to go back there.
Senor, it's my obligation. I proposed that we plant them outside. I exposed them to this risk.
And I was the one who agreed to it. The blame lies on my shoulders.
I should share part of the guilt, too.
If that's your wish, we'll bear the responsibility together. However,
if they don't survive the storm, what then?
chances are they're already dead. I suppose I should notify the lab to restart the gene modification process from the beginning. We'll have another opportunity to plant the Miraculous in a year's time.
I urge you to reconsider, senor. Please let me inspect the seedlings first.
You really are stubborn, aren't you?
I can't help it, senor. I just believe they still have a fighting chance.
Maybe they do, Q, but reaching the seedlings now is far too risky. I'll inspect them once the storm has passed. And you'll stay here and recuperate.
Thank you, senor. I'll put my faith in Mother Nature's judgment until then.
Good. But it will be some time before the storm passes.